Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the movies of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for Season 2, we are diving into Blazing Saddles 1, Not to Worry, Everyone is Equal in My Eye, minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
I am your co-host, Walt Murray.
And it's such a pleasure to welcome back the two guys that started off this format, Pete and Alex from the Star Wars Minute. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to be back.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we are so glad to have you, especially on Hump Day. We did Young Frankenstein for our first season, and we always shout out Wednesdays in memory of our favorite hunchback, Igor. So he loves Wednesdays. All right, well, let's go ahead and set the table for where we are today. We are going to jump right in here. We are still on Hedley Lamarr as he's ruminating about how he's going to deal with the request for a sheriff. And we're going to start off with, but where would I find such a man? And then we're going to end with Governor Lepetomane saying, be with you in a minute. So let's go ahead and just dive right in here to this minute, guys. And this line that we end with, which is, but where would I find such a man? He's looking right at the camera. And then he adds, why am I asking you? Totally ad-libbed, not in the script.
Really?
Oh, really?
That last little bit, something about him staring into the camera. Harvey Korman just decided at the last minute to say, why am I asking you? Like you, the audience. Like, I'm not going to be able to hear you from here.
So did they write that with him intending to break the fourth wall, or did he just, like, his whole shtick there where he broke the fourth wall was his own?
It was totally his own, because the direction in the script is Lamarr is pacing up and down when he stops and smiles, but where would I find such a man? He's just thinking to himself in the room. He never stares into the camera, at least there's no direction written that way. And then the ad-lib, why am I asking you?
Good. That was, I think that's the highlight of the minute for me.
So we're done. Thanks for joining us.
And thanks for joining us. You'll be able to catch up and binge listen really quick this way. Now, there is actually a sound. As soon as he asked the question, we hear the sound that Walt, you and I talked about a few minutes back. And we know what that sound is. There's some commotion outside where the hangman is usually set up to take care of business.
Right.
Yeah, that's... I always like to have windows in my office, but I'm kind of glad that's not the setup outside my office.
You don't want to look down and watch public hangings?
No, there's a lot of things that I'd like to see, but not that.
All right, I got to ask both you guys, Pete and Alex, your thoughts when we see Boris the Hangman and his style of delivery and that kind of character, almost playing a Robin Hood-esque era executioner.
Well, we're not the kind of normal reaction that you might be looking for, because of course my first reaction, the first thing I think of is like, okay, who is that? And so I had to go look him up, and I was like, well, it seems almost like a cameo. Like, is it? And it's not entirely. It's just a guy that Mel Brooks threw into a couple of things and was, a working actor.
I assumed it was Kenneth Mars.
Oh, you did? You thought that it was the inspector, the guy who played Inspector Kemp?
Yeah, because he has small parts in a few movies, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah. In Mel Brooks movies, I mean, obviously he has parts in other movies.
No, he's only in that one, and that's it.
Wow, it's a one
and done. No, Kenneth Mars was in several. A handful of Brooks, but certainly, I think over 100 and some credits for Kenneth Mars.
Right. And he does a lot of crazy accents and stuff, but
he does. He plays a lot of the German parts in Mel Brooks movies.
Right.
But I didn't see his name listed in the credits, so I guess it's just a guy.
Yeah, just a guy. Actually, there's a lot of names. This is back in 1974 where I guess actor contracts weren't quite as tight. And so there's a lot of people that never got a credit. But here's an interesting story. We had a chance to speak with Burton Gilliam, who plays Lyle, which I would argue is a fairly significant character. This was the second movie he had ever done. And it was one of those things where he didn't know anything about the industry. He had been a career firefighter in Texas and got involved with the movie Paper Moon, which got him involved with showing up for this because he had worked with Madeline Kahn on Paper Moon. And somehow his name came to Mel Brooks's attention for this movie. And they had written up two different contracts. One's your billing contract, and one is your payment. Billing being where you're going to be in the credits, your payment, how much they're going to pay to be an actor. Apparently, Mel Brooks did not file the billing paperwork properly, and you'll notice that Burton Gilliam is not mentioned at all in the opening credits.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a comment from actor Burton Gilliam.
Let me bring up something that I did not like about the picture. That because I'm telling you something that Alex didn't like, and this was just by a mistake, but it's still in my craw and will be there till I'm gone. When I went out to see Mel, I told him no the first time out. I told him no the second time out. The third time out, I told him okay. And he had already told me in the second time out, he said, if you'll do this, I'll give you paid ads. I didn't know what paid ads was. Paid ads, do you know what paid ads are?
No, I don't.
Paid ads are whenever the movie is advertised and people's names starring so and so and so and so and so and so. Those are paid ads. He said, I will put you in the paid ads, which means every time it was advertised and had all the big stars' names and had the writer, the producer, the director, my name would be right there. Let me tell you, the first time I saw the picture in a screening, I was not on the front credits. I wasn't on the end credits. After I saw it, and I thought, well, maybe I missed it, but no, I didn't, because I wanted to see my name up there. I was supposed to be also starring David Huddleston, me, and Richard Carlton, whatever his name was. My name was not anywhere on the front credits or back credits. I called Mel and I said, Mel, I'm not on the credits. He said, well, sure you are. You're right up there, right after, what's his name? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not on the credits anywhere. He called me back in a few minutes and he said, oh my gosh, you're not on the credits. I'll get it fixed. He did not get it fixed. He couldn't get it fixed. This was about 3 weeks before it was going to opening in the theaters. The best he could do, he put me on. I was not anywhere on the front credits. I was never in the paid ads. He put me on the end credits right below his name, starring so-and-so and so-and-so, Mel Brooks, and then Burton Gilliam. But what he had done, he had forgotten, and I just certainly didn't know. I didn't have an agent. When there are two parts to a contract. One is your billing contract. One is your money contract. Of course, they did the money contract, but he forgot to send in the billing contract. Nobody ever knew my name at all when it was being, and they don't know it today. If I had been on the front credits, if I had had paid ads, that would mean a few $1 million more to me. I didn't know that at the time, but I know it now. Anytime that big stars of a picture are invited to anything or talked about, the people go to the paid ads and look at it. My name was not on the paid ads. There's so many things that all the stars of Blazing Saddles have been invited to over the years that I never even heard from. And so that is all. And it was, I don't blame Mel. He just forgot. he didn't do it. I know he didn't do that on purpose.
We now bring you back to the Wilder ride.
He made a comment to us that he has lost a lot of residual and financial gain as a result for not being in those opening credits.
That's not something they could like correct in like later the DVD or something?
See, I asked that question, but because of the contractual signing of the film, the movie in all subsequent releases, unless they were going to renegotiate the contract, which the studio never wanted to, they can't change the opening credits.
Wow.
Because I thought that exact same thing. I'm like, well, isn't it in the DVD now? And he said, nope. They added me to the end credits, but they did not put me anywhere in the beginning.
Bad luck.
So it's kind of interesting how credits have evolved since the 70s and on to what we're seeing today, where, you know, everybody and their brother that may have been somewhat involved with the movie gets a credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, oddly, Boris is played by Robert Ridgely, and Robert Ridgely is the only person in any of the scenes with Boris in it who is credited in the movie. And Robert Ridgely is a pretty accomplished actor. He's got 147 credits to his name, including Boogie Nights and Beverly Hills Cop 2. He was also in Robin Hood Men in Tights. And
playing a very similar looking
yes,
character.
He was credited as the Hangman. So he is the Hangman in 2 of Mel Brooks' movies.
Does that mean they take place in the same universe?
We actually had a couple of guys that do a radio show, a nostalgic geekiness radio show called BK on the Air, and he calculated that it would have been his 19th generation down grandson if he handed down all the clothes from Robin Hood's day to 1874 in America.
Wow. That's
So I think he actually went and did all 19 and said his great grandson.
Wow.
But if you look at what he's wearing there, that is more, his outfit is more of a Robin Hood era outfit than it is an Old West outfit.
No, absolutely. In fact, if you pause right when we're showing the scene, right around 17 seconds in, and he's getting ready to deliver his line about,
Oh, welcome to Hanging House. Not to worry, everyone is equal in my eye.
You see Sheriff Bart in typical 1874 working on the railroad gear. You see a guy that's dressed like a police officer from the 1920s holding guard with a rifle. Then you see another Old West guy. And then there's a guy that looks like he's wearing a 40s style business suit and hat. So
yeah,
it goes by so fast, but it looks like you've got several different ages being represented on the Hangman's line.
Well, doesn't that make sense? Because isn't this all revealed to be a movie set at the end? So maybe they came in from another movie set.
He ended up on the wrong set, and
right. But they're really getting executed. It's like the jail in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Well, and the one guy in the business suit looks like he is dressed for the Kentucky Derby.
I don't. He just strikes me as that almost like that Frank Sinatra era. You know, like he's ready to go to Vegas and do the original Ocean's 11. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the guys in line to get hung, they're all kind of pushing and shoving like they want to get to the front of the line. And I was like, what's the mad rush to get hung?
Well, funny you should mention that, Walt, having the script in front of me. There is about a page and a half that was not put into the movie. First and foremost, we got to give a shout out to Robert Ridgely for inventing the line that was never put in the script. Not to worry, everyone is equal in my eye. He just added that line as Sheriff Bart walks up. Well, not Sheriff yet, but as Bart walks up to the hangman's noose. Now, according to the script, what's supposed to happen is man at the front of the line says, "Hey, what's going on? I'm next." Then a bunch of ad-libs where people are saying, well, I want to go next. No, I want to be next. No, it's supposed to be my turn. Then Bart says, well, perhaps we better wait. After all, they were here before me. The guard pushes Bart up the steps. Bart mounts the steps to the scaffold. Boris says, would you care for a blindfold or an after-dinner mint? Bart says, no, thank you. Do you have anything in the way of a reprieve? Boris goes, sorry. Then an official reading from the state document. In accordance with the ordinance signed by John Mordaunt's, I don't know where that name comes from, the prisoner is to be hanged by his neck to pay for his subordinates. Oh, John Mordaunt's. It's a play on words. For his subordinates, if the prisoner has no last words, will proceed with the hanging. Boris reaches for the lever. Bart says, wait, last words, if you don't mind. I'd like a brief chat with my maker before I meet him in person. The official says, of course. Bart whips off his hat, then says, let us bow our heads in prayer. Oh, Lord, I don't know why I'm being hung, but it really doesn't matter. He slowly slips the noose around his own neck, continuing, because sooner or later, all who walk upright must take the long nap. He surreptitiously edges his way down the steps and quietly makes his way through the courtyard as he's... Sorry, I said he takes the noose on. He takes the noose off as everybody's got their heads bowed. He's saying this prayer and slowly walking away and saying, yea, verily, the leaves that are green in the spring must sooneth or later turneth browneth in the falleth. It is with love, not hatred, that I make my way toward the pearly gates of everlasting freedom. He is almost out of the courtyard when suddenly, into the frame, pressed against his head, is the long silver barrel of a 6-shooter. Camera pulls back to reveal Hedley Lamarr. Beautifully put. I'd like a word with you. Do you have a moment? And then it cuts to the governor's office.
Huh. You think they filmed all that and just cut it out?
It's in the script. This is the final shooting script. I haven't seen any outtakes that would indicate they shot all this, but here's my thought, and I know, Walt, you and I are a little bit more familiar with all of the scenes to come. It would be funny to watch him be able to talk his way out by getting everybody to bow their heads in prayer, but then don't you think that would take away later when he shows up in Rockridge and holds himself hostage?
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would have, it definitely would have taken away from that scene, because that's a powerful scene. It's a great scene. Also, I don't like all the King James language to it, but I understand what they were going for, and it's kind of funny. I think it would be funny to see.
Yeah, I think by itself, it's a funny scene to show that how smart Bart always is. He manages to talk himself, or talk everybody into letting him, getting their eyes off of him and getting away. I mean, from the very beginning of the movie, he outsmarts Lyle. He outsmarts Taggart. He's now going to get ready to outsmart the Hangman. So it does establish very early on, but I do think that this scene, though funny, does take away from the later scene that sort of mirrors this almost, beat for beat.
It would have been a good scene in the TV version, but not in the cinematic version.
Oh, wait a minute. What's the difference?
Well, in the TV version, you also have the 2 added Mongo scenes, and you have some stuff taken out for TV, so it would have been a good drop in, but I don't think I would have liked it in the cinematic version. I think the cinematic version you have higher expectations of, and the TV version you can add some stuff that is a little bit of throwaway. I mean, it's a good scene, but it's not a great scene. I think it takes away from that second scene.
I 100% disagree, but before I tell you why, I don't want to make sure we're monologuing. We got to let our guests get a word in edgewise. Do you guys have a thought on this?
I can see how it's the fine line between kind of, overdoing it or establishing a character. You know what I mean? Like, you want to preserve that moment for later, but like if he does that kind of thing more than once, then it's like, oh, that's a character trait. But I don't know. I kind of like it. I'm a fan of kind of a lot of, I'm not going to say quick. I'm a fan of slow movies, but kind of quick editing. So like, I don't feel like you have to show it. So I don't know. I think I like the way that it works out here.
Yeah, I think it's better tightened up, shortened.
Now, here's why I'm going to disagree with Walt on putting this one in the TV version, because I agree that we do have those moments where he beats Mongo 3 times, but he beats him 3 times 3 different unique ways. This is almost an identical scene. He's about to be executed, and he manages to talk his way out of it. And he's going to do the exact same thing later. So to me, it's too close of a similarity that I think it would have weakened the impact. They both would have been funny, but we'd have been like, oh, wait, we just saw him do that. This time, instead of getting everybody to put their heads down in prayer, now he's holding himself hostage and has convinced everybody that that it's 2 different people, the victim and the kidnapper.
Yeah. It's funnier.
Okay, this doesn't happen often, but I think you might have convinced me.
Wow.
Guys, you're here for a momentous event. We're going to put this in gold.
I said you might have.
Oh, okay.
No, I think I have to agree with you because I think I would like to have seen it as just maybe
as an outtake.
Yeah.
But DVD extra.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have to agree with you because if him doing it here doesn't work, then I think we would be watching the next time with kind of the expectation that it doesn't work. So
right, because Hedley does catch him at the end based on how it was written.
Yeah, so I'm glad they didn't do that. And I like the fact that he consistently outsmarts people.
Yes.
And if he doesn't outsmart him here, then it kind of takes away from that.
Right.
So getting back then to what's actually on screen, we've got a very funny line from Boris. I love as he's looking him up and down with his one good eye. It says, "Oh, welcome to Hanging House. Not to worry. Everyone's equal in my eye." Like, look how progressive I am. Everyone's the same. You're all about to die.
I think it's a slightly stronger bit considering that the whole theme of racism and everything, that line would make no sense unless you knew that
death,
like white people and black people were treated differently.
Exactly. It's so in your face, and yet it's so funny the way it's being delivered by the hangman. Because in his mind, everyone's going to end up the same anyway. You're all going to end up dead. That's his job. Even though he's got 2 men home sick with the flu.
Yeah,
right.
And he really doesn't care if you're white, black, handicapped, a horse. Whatever. He's going to do his job. He's going to do it well because he feels the same about all of you.
Hedley Lamarr comes back in through the window because the wheels are turning. We almost can guess what he's about to do. This is also not in the script. The idea of his laughing.
Before we leave Boris, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to, sorry to derail the show just for a nostalgia moment, but I wanted to give a shout out to what my favorite, I guess, Robert Ridgely role, which he was the voice of Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we mentioned that with the BK on the Air guys. They actually appointed themselves the Robert Ridgely president and vice president of his fan club, of which there are 2 members. Nice. So, but yeah, those guys, I don't know if you've ever heard their radio show. You can stream it online every Saturday or catch it on their SoundCloud, but they love getting into these kind of niche little actors and how they were voiceovers for this cartoon or this scene on this 60s show or 70s show, or they build their show as nostalgic geekiness, and they really do this kind of deep dive every week, but in a very funny and light way.
Nice.
I would have to say I have not heard the name Thundar the Barbarian
since this podcast.
In 20 years up until this came up on the show.
Thundar the Barbarian.
Well, did you notice too that he I love that he says, "Welcome to Hanging House." He's actually got a name for his business here.
Right.
You think normally it's indoors, but because it was such a nice day, they're like, "Let's go outside today.
Enjoy the sunshine.
It's such a beautiful day. Have you any last words?"
Yeah. Well, I was hoping not to get hung inside, so this really makes my day.
Anything else though about Robert Ridgely then?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to derail everything.
It's all about the guest, not about us.
Well, and I would have to say this is the first time we've ever gotten off track. Alan and I are usually completely focused,
like a rail. We come back in, and Hedley Lamarr here, Harvey Korman. This whole thing is ad-libbed as well. Nothing in the script about him. Laughing, reeling his head back, and you realize it cuts back to the last minute when we saw him put that little piece of candy in his mouth. Because now he ends up choking on it and then spitting it out, which to me, visually, still one of the funniest, like, just visual gags in the movie. Because you almost forget, well, why is he choking? And then when you see that little round mint come spitting out of his mouth, like, oh yeah, he put it in his mouth a minute ago before he asked us, why am I asking you?
Yeah, that's
literally a visual gag.
Yeah, a visual gag.
These are the chokes, folks.
He's gonna be here for another day. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
I think it's so funny that he put that in there just to like. Do you think they were like, how are we going to end this scene? And then he's like, oh, have him choke on something earlier on. Let's have him put some gum in it. You know, what was the thought process between, was it, improvised? What's the deal? You guys know, what's the deal?
There's a story about how Marlon Brando, his whole method style of acting, and I don't remember the movie, but I remember watching a documentary where there was a scene prior to where they were going to go see the body that had been brought. They were going to get ready for a wake or whatever, and the body was in ice, which is how you would have preserved a body back in the 20s. They didn't have, refrigeration or something very easily. So if you were holding a body out for a viewing, they had packed him in ice. But the scene they were shooting before, out of nowhere, Marlon Brando started like pressing his finger to the upper edge of his cheek, like almost like his gum was hurting or like he had a toothache. And the director couldn't figure out. I was like, why is he keep doing that? He looks like he's wincing. Like, does he really have a toothache? But for some reason, they didn't question him about it. They went to the next scene, set it up, and out of nowhere, to establish how, just the kind of character Brando was playing, he looks down at the guy in the ice, grabs one of the ice cubes, and then sticks it in his mouth to like help ease that pain. Like, so he in his head thought ahead, how do I make what I'm doing interesting? I'm going to establish I've got a toothache, and then I'm going to be brazen enough to grab ice that's there to cool this dead body and stick it in my mouth.
Wow.
And then I remember watching this documentary. They were like, that's just how Brando was. You almost didn't want to question his method because it more often than not worked.
Well, I'm a big fan of Marlon Brando over there. I used to do the Godfather minute, so we.
Oh, then I don't remember the name of the movie that was, but do you know have you heard that story before?
I've not heard that story before. It does not sound familiar, but he's done a lot of movies, so it's. I'm no expert.
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember it was something on maybe A&E Biography or something that I used to watch, a couple decades ago when that was a cool show to watch on A&E. And I was just fascinated by just, watching how different actors approach their craft.
Yeah. It's, he's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take a controversial position and say that I think Marlon Brando is actually a good actor.
Way to step out on a limb.
Fight me.
Well, I don't know. You could ask Francis Ford Coppola during Apocalypse Now, and he might have thought differently.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, or anyone who directed Marlon Brando for the last 20 years of his life.
Right.
The Island of Dr. Moreau. Ugh.
Oh, I love that movie.
Right. Yeah.
You like the remake?
I mean, I like it because it's a disaster. I don't think it's a genuinely good movie, but it's fascinating to watch.
Okay.
Especially
it's
from
fun
Marlon
to watch
Brando.
for what a disaster it is. Okay.
Yeah. You really need to watch it with that documentary that they made about it too. So it's like they should intercut.
Well,
I don't know.
He may be the very definition of phoning it in the last few years of his career. He never really seemed to take any of his last few roles very seriously.
Right.
Yeah, I think by then he was kind of sick of acting and just wanted to get money for his tropical islands he was building.
Right.
Well, I think I saw a thread just recently on one of the Movies by Minutes pages. I don't remember who actually started, but like what actor is basically himself in every movie. And I actually made a point of saying, I think some actors don't do that until they get toward their like last third of their career. Because I would argue Al Pacino was fantastic until maybe the last 5 or 10 movies. And it's basically Al Pacino in every movie.
Right.
Robert De Niro tends to be the same in every movie. The last 5-6 movies he's done. Samuel L. Jackson tends to be kind of that same character in every movie he does.
I heard, I think, what is it? And Justice for All, you can see like Pacino starts out as a good actor and then just kind of falls into that role. And then he's that for the rest of his career. Like in the middle of that movie, apparently, like he just kind of settles on the kind of shouty.
Yep. It's time for me to yell.
Right.
I think most actors just play basically or they're at least they're not given the chance to play anything other than a variation on themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I guess that's what they're casting. They want you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hopefully Robert Ridley is not playing himself here.
Although he was an executioner in 2 films. So.
Oh, that's true.
Executioner or barbarian.
Or a barbarian.
I've been typecast as an executioner barbarian.
That's awesome.
Of course, I guess if you're going to get typecast, that's kind of a cool thing to be typecast as.
Yeah, there are worse roles you could be cast as.
Yeah, I guess if you get typecast as that or a serial killer, you really kind of have to maybe have some conversations with a psychiatrist and figure out what's going on.
Why am I so believable as this?
Well,
we move right into another one of these little crossfades where he has recovered and he's ready to walk out his door. And so we immediately cut into what we can assume is another politician's office. And we're going to very quickly realize this is the governor's office. And there's some, dare I say, hanky-panky going on behind the curtain there.
I think that's safe to say. Well, I love the
not in the ear.
Yeah.
Not in the ear.
I love that. That's what filters through, and that's the takeaway. Is not in the ear.
What do you guys think she was doing?
I was wondering who was going to ask that.
Me. I asked it.
What do you think she was doing? Blowing, kissing, rubbing, tickling. There's a lot of words we could throw in here.
Well, maybe she was using a Q-tip, and he was telling her make sure not to go in the ear canal as instructed on the box.
I wonder if this goes back to Richard Pryor talking about the monkey that ran up his head and stuck his thing in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
Goes, and so I called him friend. It said it felt like a wet Q-tip.
It's just kind of funny that it doesn't really have I guess that is just the punchline is just, you're supposed to, but it seems like that, like when they open the curtain, there should have been a visual thing there,
Right.
Well, okay.
But
since Pete brought this up,
Mhm.
I mean, what could be happening that he's actually saying not in the ear?
I love the fact that they leave that to our imagination because it makes it so insane.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, but what would you not want in your ear?
Well, anything.
I mean, if you're with Miss Stein,
My elbow.
I don't. Yeah,
my
I
own
don't like
elbow.
anything in my ear.
I mean, what could I mean, is she suggesting that she's going to put a cigar out in his ear? I mean,
Maybe.
because I mean, if it's kissing, licking, touching, squeezing, a whole Journey song, I'm trying to imagine why he'd be going, no, not in the ear.
Maybe his ear is sensitive.
He should show him holding like a drill or something.
Yeah. Or maybe they're playing Operation. There you go.
The wacky doctor's game.
It does leave it to the imagination, but when I hear it and I ask myself that question, I mean, like, you're with this voluptuous redhead that we've already been introduced to, and you hear him talking. If anything, I'm like, oh, baby, in the ear. Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess that's whatever you're into, man.
Right. As long as you're consenting adults.
Well, you know what? Well, I have a mild anxiety disorder when it comes to bare feet. That would do it. I'd say no to that. No, not in the ear.
A foot in your ear?
The feet in the ear? Yeah.
How extreme is this? Do you see bare feet and get freaked out, or is it just you don't want to touch them and look at them, or what's the extent of this?
So if it's male feet, yeah, I may run away and certainly avert my eyes.
Wow.
Female feet, I can stand, but I don't want you touching me.
So how if you go to the beach, or do you not go to the beach because you don't want to see?
Oh, I go to the beach, but people's feet are usually in the sand. I don't see them.
You can kind of avert your eyes.
I don't see the toes.
So no pools?
Yeah. So this all came about. I actually have my version. This is my version of post-traumatic stress. I used to fly a lot for IBM when I was with that company, and the standards by which people held themselves in the class of people that could fly has slowly degraded over the years with cheaper flights.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming back from a long day from New York. It was a Friday. And I get on the plane and I sit down in my seat and I'm feeling like, okay, I'm going back home. I'm going to see the wife, going to see the kids. And all of a sudden I got this funk coming up from underneath my seat. I'm like, what is that? The guy behind me got his socks and shoes off and had propped his foot kind of against the wall of the plane to where his foot was coming up sort of underneath my hand rest.
Ugh.
And I couldn't help but look down at this gnarly, unclipped toes and just hair, and it just was funky, and I've been repulsed by males' feet ever since. It's just like, oh, put that away. So I have a mild anxiety disorder when it comes to feet.
That's pretty gross. That happened to me recently. I looked down and saw someone's a gentleman's toes sticking. I should have like whacked them. We both should have like hit them or something.
Wait. Oh, I think
I would have, but then I would have had to have touched them.
you should have whacked the guy.
I totally should have.
And I don't get it. I don't know. I get in the summer, I get by the pool. I mean, here we are in the middle of winter, and I watch guys that walk into the store still wearing sandals and shorts. And I'm like, come on, put on some tennis shoes and some socks. I don't need to look at these toes.
I'm with you now.
Walt, you're one of those people who wear shorts all the time, aren't you?
I am, but I am not a flip-flop guy.
Yeah.
I'm just, feet kind of freak me out.
Oh, they do to you too?
Yeah, I'm not a foot person. We'd have to have a very, very, very close relationship, which I will never have with any of the three of y'all, in order for me to want to see your feet. And I really don't even want to see the feet. Like, my wife makes fun of me about this.
Everybody does to me.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I'm good with just about everything else. Like, I want to black out the bottom half of my sunglasses when I go to the beach because I just don't want to see people's feet.
I didn't realize you were worse, or at least as bad as me.
Yeah, I don't have too many phobias or weird things, but that is one. And you guys should go back and listen to our Young Frankenstein episode when they first show the monster's feet. We both kind of make a passing comment about it, but its feet are not good.
No. Yeah, that'd be the one thing, Miss Stein, I don't want putting in my ear. And keep your toes where I don't see them.
Yeah, no, that would be that. Well, with her it might not, but it would be a game ender for a lot of things.
Okay, I do. I mean, I've gotten to the point where with the wife, if she really scrubs them and spritzes them with something that smells good, I can give her a foot massage, but just because I'm married to her. And I think somewhere I agreed to that way back when it says, do you thusly take her for whatever? And I apparently at some point said, sure, and feet massages. So, but outside of that, no way.
Like, can I ask you a personal question? Do you guys have children?
Yes.
Do your children's feet also fall into this disgusting category, or can you tolerate that?
That's amazing. Little kids' feet when they were little. Oh my God, I would put the little toes in my face all the time. That never bothered me because they always smelled like, Johnson's & Johnson's baby powder. But now they're all grown up. I think that'd be a little weird if they started putting their feet in my face.
But are you repulsed by seeing their feet?
You know what? Not as much. And again, because I've got all girls, so I've got 4 girls, and they all have, for the most part, what I would call like cute toes versus the gnarly, bony, pointing 4 different directions toes. Mm-hmm. My wife's got one of those like feeler toes, like her second toe is long enough that it looks around corners before she gets there, and that always freaks me out.
It actually looks around corners. That does sound very like a Guillermo del Toro movie or something.
You know what I'm talking about? Where like the second toe is so much longer than the big toe.
That's prehensile.
That it's literally like looking around the corner before she gets there.
Horrifying.
I'm like, I call it her feeler toe. It's like prodding along as she moves.
She doesn't listen to this, right?
No, she does not.
Okay.
I have said several episodes where I keep leaving these Easter eggs, and I'm going to know the one day that she's decided to go listen because I'm going to get that look when I walk in the door and say, oh, you listened to the podcast.
Or I will get a call asking for a recommendation on a good attorney.
No, actually, she does not listen, but I joke about that with her all the time. And there's plenty of things she jokes about me about with other people. So we're even.
All right.
You're like, hey, you should listen to my podcast. And she says, no, not in the ear.
Not in the ear. Not in the ear.
Perfect.
Nicely done. Ba-dum-bum. And that's why these guys are the masters. We are but the learners.
Yes, that was very well played.
All right. Well, he finally does poke his head through the curtain here and says, yes, And Hedley says, "Official business, sir." But he goes, "Is it important?" It's like, Hedley's got to go, "It's extremely crucial." He's like, "Oh, dear God." Like, it's the last thing he wants to do is his job. Well, and that's going to end the minute where he's obviously going to have to, whatever he's doing behind the curtain there, he closes the curtain, he's going back behind to tell somebody something. We don't get to hear it yet this minute. So before we put the final touches on minute number 23 here, Alex, I'll go to you first. Do you have anything that we missed from your notes for this minute number 23?
23, fourth wall, executioner, chewing gum. Nope, that's it. I'm all set.
Pete, what about you?
Yeah, why am I asking you Thundar the Barbarian, not in the ear? We're good.
Okay, boxes checked. Walt, what about you?
Well, I just want to give myself a little kudos for not getting us bogged down in hat talk, because I did notice that there were 8 different types of hats in this minute. And
when all of them are lined up?
Yeah, all of them lined up at the executioner thing. So I will not get us bogged down in that war in Southeast Asia, but I did want to point that out.
All right. Well, before I tell you what's coming up tomorrow, Alex, I'll go to you first. Where can people learn a little bit more about the Star Wars Minute?
Well, we are the host of the daily show, the Star Wars Minute, and you can check that out at starwarsminute.com. And we're also on the Twitter, Star Wars Minute, and we're on the Facebook. We have a chat group called the Star Wars Minute Listener Society, which even if you don't listen to the show, you can come and hang out and have some friendly conversations about Star Wars.
And Pete, if somebody who's listening to this for the first time, people discover podcasts left and right, and they go, "Wait a minute, there's a show about Star Wars." Where can they go to get all caught up?
StarWarsMinute.com. That's the you can click on kind of, I think over on the side, there's a thing that says start from the beginning. You can pick what movie you want to start from the beginning of. I always, of course, recommend release order. So start way at the beginning when we don't know what we're doing and our episodes were like 5 minutes long.
Well, what about like the podcatchers? Are you on most of the popular ones?
Sure, yeah, we're on Apple Podcasts. I think I was going to say iTunes, but I want to correct myself. Apple Podcasts and Google Play and Stitcher and Spotify and all that stuff. So,
folks, just Google Star Wars Minute. You're going to find everything you need, and definitely worth binge listening to get all caught up. And the way this franchise is going, as long as these guys continue to like the movies, or maybe even not like the movies, but like the talking about them, you guys are going to have a lot to still cover.
Well, that's the idea.
It will never end.
Now, are you eventually going to break into the spin-off movies as well? Are you? And you'll have to forgive me because I am not in any way close caught up to you guys. There's so many movies out there. You guys are definitely on my list. Have you done Rogue One or Solo: A Star Wars Story yet?
No, that's next season, Rogue One, because we're doing release order always.
Release order. So you will eventually cover all the movies, even if they're not part of the Skywalker story.
Well, unless they keep making them.
As long as they keep making them. All right.
We might never catch up. We'll see.
Well, where can people learn, or actually, let me ask it this way. Where can people get all binge caught up on the Wilder Ride?
Well, the best place to get binge caught up is one of the many places you can find us around the internet. I am still the old school person saying iTunes, but it is actually the Apple Podcast app. Also on Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. We're really all over the place. And we would really encourage you, if you enjoy what you're hearing, to please take a second to give us a rating. 5-star would be great, but whatever appropriate rating you feel we deserve. And to make a quick comment, there's a weird thing within all of these different podcatchers where the comment really helps us get moved up in the ratings there. So if somebody's looking for something on Gene or on Blazing Saddles, it'll make it easier for them to find us. Also, if you want to take a second to go to facebook.com/The Wilder Ride and join in the conversation there and join our listeners group.
All right. Come back tomorrow. These guys are with us one more minute. We're going to have Pete and Alex from the Star Wars Minute weighing in on minute number 24. That'll start off with throw something on and stay in that position, and ends with Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. And we have to come back tomorrow to find out more about what's happening in minute 24 of this, The Wilder Ride.
Okay, so there's a hillbilly hat, a floppy hat, Oh, sorry. I said I wasn't going to do that.
There's a cop hat. There's a hangman mask. There's an eye patch.
The hangman mask count as a hat? I wouldn't, but
Well,
I mean, maybe.
it's kind of a head cover.
It's some.
What about like a one of those ski masks that you can make into a hat or a mask?
Ooh, multi-purpose.
I guess it depends on how you wear it.
Yeah,
It depends.
We're all good now. Here. How are you?
it's complicated.
All right. Walt, you're recording?
I'm recording.
Excellent. So that means everybody said they were. So anybody who's not, well, you're not in the next episode. So 3, 2, 1. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to, where are we? Oh, yeah, the Wilder Ride.
Perfect.
Hey, try that again. That's what I wear when I go to see a long movie. I don't have to get up.
A robber hat?
No, depends.
No.
You're old and weird.